What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another daily drop brought to you by TarHeelIllustrated.com. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp as well. Really excited to be partnered and sponsored by them. We'll talk about them a little bit later on the show, so stay tuned for that. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner. Joining me as he always does, very own publisher Andrew Jones. And AJ, we're here for a UNC football related job, and in this one we're going to be talking about a unfortunate situation for many different reasons, and that is a situation right now concerning UNC transfer wide receiver Tez Walker, a guy that's preseason first team All ACC, a member of the Blitnikoff Award watch list. A lot of expectations for him going into the season, and the news came out on Tuesday afternoon at the open practice that you were at that he had his waiver appeal for immediate eligibility denied by the NCAA a couple weeks ago. And what this means as of right now is Walker will not be eligible to play in the 2023 season, although the decision is being appealed by North Carolina. We'll hit on the likelihood of him, in fact, playing this season a little bit later on in the podcast. But, AJ, give me your immediate kind of thoughts on the situation that Carolina finds itself in, because I know there's a lot of frustration and a lot of emotion around it right now, and rightly so. So, from being there in person, what can you tell us about the situation and kind of what's going on right now behind the scenes?
Well, first thing I'm going to do is give kudos to Carolina. Jeremy Sharp, who's head of branding, media relations director for football and head of branding. He's worked with Mac before, worked with him at Texas, and I thought the way they handled it yesterday was brilliant.
Agreed.
Because we were supposed to talk to Gene Chisholm. We got to see the first half of practice in person, first day of full pads. And then we had to go away for an hour and then come back. And we were supposed to talk to Gene Chizik, and they let us know we're all waiting around. Mac started practice is over. We're in the indoor facility and they're finishing up practice. Mac gives a speech. He starts walking over. I'm like, what's Mac coming over here for? He got a bone to pick with somebody, or got to come over and have some fun, or maybe he's got a statement to make about something. And then I started thinking, man, maybe someone's out for the year. Mm-hmm. Maybe someone quit the team. Whatever. And then he goes into Tez Walker, and I was like, I remember when this came up in January, we got a chance to talk to all the portal kids, and the Walker thing was, hey, this is not an issue. They had looked into it. They got the waiver, and because he technically had been at multiple schools, and they moved on. Everything was kosher. And then when he told us what was going on and the way that they handled it by Max talking about mental health and his grandmother, and being very clear saying, hey, he's having a tough time with this. And one can only imagine how tough a time. Some people might just say, it's just football. He can't play football. Big deal. That's his life. He has an opportunity to make generational money for his family playing football. And suddenly this is being taken away from him. So then they brought in Lonnie Galloway, wide receiver coach, who actually recruited him a little bit in high school, and said, he didn't have the grades to play at a big time school. And he wasn't a very good student, wasn't very disciplined in that area. And Lonnie outlined how he's become an A and B student, and he's become very disciplined. He's grown up and matured. And then he says that Tez is leaning on put his head on his shoulder and is crying over it.
Yeah.
They did a brilliant job of getting this out there in a way where they're tugging at all the emotional heartstrings. So it ran nationally. Like every national college football writer has tweeted about it. People are totally galvanizing against the NCAA on this. It's funny because I'm a Baltimore Orioles fanatic, as most people know. And something similar happened with their TV broadcaster, where all he did was state facts, and the tyrannical, insane, embarrassing owner of the Baltimore Orioles went ahead and suspended him for stating facts. And everybody's galvanized behind Kevin Brown, right?
And rightly
free
so.
Kevin
Rightly
Brown.
so, yeah.
Well, now it's free Tez Walker. Mm-hmm. And I think the public pressure is going to help work into his favor ultimately. Well, we can explore that in a few minutes, but it's really remarkable, Jacob, because he enrolled in college January 9th. It had already been approved. January 11th, the NCAA changes the rule. Mm-hmm. But instead of telling him January 12th, we're actually going back on the approval of the waiver. They waited 7 months. 2 weeks ago, he finds out. And it's devastating. And they have filed an appeal, and they're waiting on the appeal process, although I think they're going to take it further if they have to. Mm-hmm. And it's, for all the things that the NCAA has sat back and ignored, And I'm a guy that understands the NCAA, as you know, because one of my best friends used to be Mark Emmert's right-hand man. I mean, he was right there. I knew a lot that was going on. That's why we were always way ahead of the AFAM stuff. We knew
very
it was
well
going to happen.
Put it that way.
Extremely well sourced. We were always way ahead on stuff like that because I had great sources. That's one of the names of the game in this business, right? Well, in my sourcing with the NCAA now with Charlie Baker is that he's going to come down on some stuff. And I've told you, I think part of the recruiting craziness, they're going to come down on the kids. I had no idea they would start with this because there's also a kid at Florida State who's dealing with something very similar as well. In fact, Brett Friedlander wrote a great column about it. We retweeted it. So go on our Twitter thing. You can see it. He wrote a great column about these two kids and what's happening. But it's a shocking story because it had already been approved. Like they basically totally reneged on it.
Yeah.
Such a bad look. Such a bad look for an organization that does have new leadership. And I've talked to people off the record in positions of having to know a lot of stuff and positions of authority and power that have said, you know what, we're very optimistic Charlie Baker and the NCAA is going to be a new, different organization moving forward. Well, one of the first public things Charlie Baker does is do the old NCAA stuff. It's okay if Oregon becomes a member of the Big Ten and the tennis team's going to have to go play a Tuesday match at Maryland. We don't, student athlete, whatever. And then something like this, they need to stop using the term student athletes because they don't give a crap about that. Sure as hell don't care about the student side. And now with Tez Walker, they don't care about the athlete side either. Yeah,
and I tweeted it out when it happened. It's a lack of to me, it's a lack of common sense to make the decision like this. To me, it's a lack of empathy as well. And again, it's incompetence. That's how I look at it. It's incompetence from the highest up. It's making a decision that doesn't make any sense because even if you look at the rule, he never played at NC Central. He had a knee injury. You know, he had that.
He was there though.
He was there, but he never participated in a game. So what's the difference? And to me, I look at it like this, AJ, and this is what I always bring it back to because this is what the NCAA has harped on with the transfer portal and everything like that. A coach can up and leave tomorrow, stay at a school for a month, go to another school, leave after 3 months, go to another school, and there's no punishment for that. But a player does it, especially in his situation, the one it's completely different than just going to a different school every year because, well, I'm not going to play here, so I'm going to go somewhere else. That's not what Tez Walker did. But to come down on him like that, it's incompetent. Incompetence at its finest, in my opinion.
So people understand very quickly. They're calling him a two-time transfer, which they're not saying he can't ever play again. He can't play this year. He would have to sit out a year. It's like the old transfer sit-out rule. They're saying that he was part of the North Carolina Central program, and even though he didn't get on the field because they didn't have a game that year, they're calling that a year at a school. They're saying that was part of the transfer thing. Now, he signed with East Tennessee State coming out of high school, and he tore his ACL. And ETSU,
that was the knee injury I was referring to. Yeah,
there was a deferment, but let's be honest, guys, they screwed him over. Mm-hmm. He tore his ACL, couldn't come to school. I know they're dealing with fewer scholarships there, but there was I was told by source, deferment. And they said, just use the word deferment. In other words, hey, if you get better in a year, maybe you can come back. Well, it didn't happen. He went to Central. And then Central didn't have football because it was the COVID year. They didn't have the fall season. And a lot of FCS teams played a spring season, but Central didn't play. So then he transferred to Kent State. He's played 2 seasons of college football, and they were at Kent State. The coaches leave, and he wants to transfer. He's got the grandmother issue that Mac talked about. And he's from North Carolina, so he came to North Carolina, and they're calling him a 2-time transfer, and he should really only be considered a 1-time transfer. That's North Carolina's argument, and we'll see how it goes. We'll hit on that here in a minute.
Yeah, it's just stupid, and I'll leave it at that. Real quickly, AJ.
Stupid with a Superman S, right?
Just like read the room, man. In what world do you think this is a smart decision? Who does this decision benefit? It benefits nobody. It hurts Tez, and it hurts Carolina. It doesn't make any sense. AJ, real quickly, before we keep going on this, because I want to hit on one more thing real quickly. This is a very appropriate sponsor for a podcast like this. And
I was thinking that, by the way, when Mac was talking yesterday about mental health and then Lonnie Galloway, and I'm thinking, man, hey, perfect sponsor we have this week for it.
Exactly. It's incredibly appropriate because, guys, sometimes in life we're faced with tough choices tough situations and the path forward isn't always clear. Just look at the Tez Walker situation, what he's going through right now. A lot of uncertainty in his life causes stress. It causes anxiety, which is Lonnie Galloway and Mac talked about that he is facing right now. And that's just incredibly unfortunate. So guys, whether you're dealing with decisions around your career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate life so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values is like anything. The more you practice it, just like a physical activity, the more you practice a sport, the easier and better you get at it. And I know, AJ, I know for me sometimes, and we've talked about this previously, just talking about things helps. I think Tez Walker is probably going through a similar situation right now with just being able to talk and communicate with his coaches and his teammates is helping him despite the uncertainty and situation he's going through right now. And tying that in, we all can get in our own head sometimes, and getting out of that by receiving that feedback, especially from a trained professional, can bring a ton of clarity to your life, AJ. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, I 100% recommend it. I think everybody should do it. You should give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and it's all suited to your schedule. So you can make time for it no matter how busy you are. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So if you find somebody, maybe you do a couple sessions with them, and I don't really know about this person, you can switch to somebody else, try someone new, and it's completely free, no additional charge there. So guys, let therapy be your map. Take control of your own mental health. It's extremely important. You can do that with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/THI today to get 10% off your first month. Again, that's BetterHelp.com/THI. Links in the description below. We'll make it easy for you guys. Head on over there. Get 10% off your first month. Make mental health a priority. It's so important. This situation illustrates that perfectly. Take control of your own mental health, and BetterHelp will help you do that. They'll be there with you every step of the way. Give them a try. What do you really have to lose? AJ, real quickly, last thing I want to ask you. I know Mac and Lonnie hit on this a little bit. What is the likelihood, at least from Carolina's perspective right now, how are they feeling about Walker's chances of playing this season? Or is it still up in the air? Or is it something they're pretty confident about?
I think publicly they're confident. Mac expressed confidence. Lonnie said he's not worried about it at all. Privately, I think they're confident too. And I believe that the university will go to whatever extent it needs to go to get this rectified. It's bad enough that the ruling is what it is, but the fact that it was one thing January 9th and something different, they moved the goalposts. You can't do do-overs. You could do do-over when you play touch football in front of the house.
You can't like change your mind.
You can't really do a do-over on something like this.
Yeah.
And that's what they want. And the NCAA would be wise to rectify this quickly, including with the situation at Florida State. The NCAA, one thing about Charlie Baker is that he fully understands the credibility of the organization has taken a hit. Now, the NCAA is the member schools across the board altogether. They control the NCAA to a degree, but it had such poor leadership under Emmert. And Charlie Baker has, it's like he walked into a house that was hit by a tornado and he has to clean it up and rebuild it himself. But this isn't the way that you do that.
Not a great start.
This is easy. Mm-hmm. This is easy. So I think Carolina, even though it's easy from where we're seeing it, and Lonnie Galloway says it's a no-brainer, and when you talk to someone in the Carolina staff off the record and they shrug your shoulders like, I don't know how this doesn't get changed. I mean, I don't know how this is even a thing. The bottom line is we all can see it that way, but the people in Indianapolis might see it very differently. They might think, look, we've got to find a few hills here that we've got to hold force on because we've got to begin changing college sports because it's completely out of control. But this is not something that comes anywhere close to being out of control. This is not something that by allowing Tez Walker to play this year and ruling him immediately eligible isn't going to affect all the other things that need to be changed. All that debris in that house that was pummeled by the tornado, I don't think Tez Walker counts. He's out by the curb, and they're thinking he's the crap inside the house, and that's just not the case. So there is confidence, but I think that there's confidence that it should happen. I'm not sure there's tremendous confidence the NCAA will do the right thing because the track record says it won't. And even though Charlie Baker's not Mark Emmert, he still is tagged with the stereotype until things otherwise. It's funny, sidebar. You go on Twitter a lot of times and you see these things about Drake May being the top pick in the draft next year. And inevitably in the thread, people will, it's Mitch Trubisky too. He's going to fail because Mitch Trubisky did, because that's the tag. That's what the perception is. Well, the NCAA has a perception of everything that Mark Emmert did to the organization. And Charlie Baker has to clean that up, which is why it's mind-boggling to me that at 4:00 yesterday afternoon, the NCAA didn't say, he's eligible, he can play. Yeah, why would they want this? It was a tap-in.
It was a tap-in. It was the easiest thing.
Why would they want this? It's the easiest thing they could have done.
Makes no sense.
So for each day that this lingers on, whatever goodwill Charlie Baker had begun gaining with schools and with coaches and administrators around the country, and I do think that process was in swing, he'll lose it. Because there isn't anybody that supports the NCAA on this decision.
No. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Again, I completely agree. NCAA should have rectified this yesterday. I love how Carolina's handled it. I think they did the exact right thing in making a deal out of it like they did.
How many quarterbacks are at their third school in 3 years?
I can name a few. I can name a handful of players right now.
It's different if you graduate. Okay, I get that. But Penn State had a basketball player last year that was his fifth school in 5 years.
Yeah. Well, NC State's got a receiver this year that's been in college for 8 years. I mean, he's been to multiple different schools. I mean, but there's no punishment for him. And again, I'm not saying that he should be punished too. Nobody should be punished, in my opinion.
And we're not politicking for Tez Walker because he plays for North Carolina, because including, I think it's Darnell Jackson from Florida State. I'm including him too, and anybody else in this situation.
There's a couple
this is a no-brainer. Don't hurt the kids. These are kids that have it has nothing to do with grades. Has nothing to do with credits. Like when Caleb went to Michigan couldn't get in, was because transferring as a senior academically is very hard at a lot of schools, which is why you usually see kids transfer either as graduates or with 2 years of eligibility remaining, because they transfer in as a junior, not a senior. He couldn't do that. Michigan wouldn't take it, just like North Carolina's not going to take many kids in that situation. So it wasn't because he didn't have good grades. It was just the transferable credits at that stage in his academic juncture, right? With this, it's a no-brainer, and there's no need to politic for that. It's absolutely absurd that we're even having this conversation.
Yeah, fix it, NCAA. I'll just end it with that. It's not, and again, it's not just Tez. It's multiple. There's kids around the country.
It's a T-shirt idea.
Yeah,
it's a T-shirt idea.
Fix it, NCAA.
My daughter and I come up with T-shirt ideas all the time, and fix it with an exclamation mark.
It's that simple.
And the dot underneath the exclamation mark instead of the dot, it's a clenched fist.
It's just it adds that a little more, a little bit of
the. If somebody steals that idea and makes money from it now, send me some cash.
I need royalties. We absolutely need royalties on that. Come on, guys. We'll be happy to.
Just like Des Evans gives his dad royalties on the T-shirts that he's selling.
Yeah, and again,
go check out the Des Evans interview we did the other day. You'll hear about that.
If anybody makes T-shirts watching this, get in contact, because I've got some more ideas we could roll up on some shirts.
I have like 300 shirt ideas. My daughter and I do it all the time.
Hey man,
there's a shirt for you.
Get in contact, guys. We'll give you some proceeds, and we'll just as long as we get a percentage, man, we're good to go. As long as you can handle the production and the shipping, you got it, man. So hopefully we'll hear from some people.
Shills. We are shills. We are embarrassing ourselves right now. We're shills.
Yes, we are. We need to get off this podcast immediately before we dig ourselves in an even bigger hole. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. And again, guys, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Check them out. BetterHelp.com/THI to get 10% off your first month. Give it a try. Mental health is so important. We're going to keep pushing that, just like Carolina's pushing that with Tez Walker, and rightly so, as they should be. We're going to continue to push the importance of mental health, and really thankful and excited to be sponsored by BetterHelp. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell as well. We'll see y'all guys in the next one. Thanks.